This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all,
just stop.
Get real.
Welcome to DBL. As we begin to get today, we want to be completely transparent. We are having some technical issues, which means that we can't play any video. So bear with us. We're going to be as exciting and entertaining as possible, and we're going to use pictures instead.
And our words.
And our words. And our words. Thank you. As I am sure you've heard, Hawaii, has been ravaged by major wildfires. At least 36 people have been killed by fast-moving fires on the island of Maui. They are fueled by the winds from Hurricane Dora and also a prolonged drought season. So it's like a perfect storm. At least 50 people were forced to flee into the ocean, like jump into the sea to save themselves, and were later rescued by the Coast Guard. The historic town of Lahaina, suffered catastrophic damage with nearly 300 buildings destroyed. One local resident says it has nearly been, quote, wiped off the map. Tourists visiting the island posted video of the fires before being evacuated, and more than 11,000 people flew out of Maui yesterday, and more are expected to be leaving today. Meantime, folks with any plans to visit the island have been told you got to cancel your trips, please. The fires have been largely contained, but search and rescue operations continue for people who are missing. And officials say it could take, this breaks my heart, decades to rebuild Lahaina. Have any of you been to Maui or seen Maui?
Yeah, my husband and I visited Maui, I guess like 7 years ago. Yeah. And we actually had just booked our trip the night before the fires broke out. So we have
to Maui.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have friends who live in Maui. They have a house in Maui. So we've just been asking them, like, you know, what's going on in terms of what they've been seeing and hearing. Yeah. But it is devastating. Like, I mean, I was watching videos, and there was this one in particular where these two men were trying to escape, and they didn't know if they were going to be able to escape because they couldn't see anything. And then they started celebrating as they could see the lines. He said, oh, you can see the lines on the road. But as you saw the lines, you also saw a woman's body on the street.
My gosh.
And he said to his friend, like, there's nothing we can do for her. We have to keep going. And gosh. It is like...
apocalyptic.
Yeah, and until you see some of this and hear about it, it's just, you can't fathom the devastation. I mean, it is, you just can't fathom it.
No, you can't, Al. Also, they have a banyan tree that I went to Maui for my honeymoon, and the first stop was this banyan tree in Lahaina. It's 150 years old. It is the feature of this island. It was planted to commemorate the arrival of Christian missionaries back in 1873. I think we do have a picture of the banyan tree, but we're trying, it's coming up. Oh, great. We did have it. What do you think about all of this and the devastating historical artifacts that we're going to be losing?
You know, we're starting to see these wildfires more and more over the last couple of years. And this is not a debate about climate change. At a point like this, when people are still putting their lives back together, just seeing who is alive at this point, I don't want to get no conversation about climate change, but there's a moment when you realize that you're losing something special and something you'll never get back. Yeah. The more and more you travel, you realize that buildings can be rebuilt. You can make things that replicate, you know, Roman statues and things. But there's certain things that, you know, there's something special when you're there. Like when you're near just like a huge oak tree, or like at the Grand Canyon. There's certain special things, and the memories that are made at these places, and how many people's wedding Instagram photo books that they're in, including your own, and for that to not be there anymore. And the idea of just, I think about the residents as somebody that worked for Carnival Cruise Lines and would go to these islands to perform. Like, you go home and you go home and we go home. That's where they live. Yeah. When they would be hurricane damage to a dock, that would affect the infrastructure there on the island. And so for them not being able to rebuild for decades, I hope they also can give these people a plan as to how to move forward, because Maui is tourism, and places like the Tree, and just it's a special place, and I feel like we should work hard to rebuild what we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think I was going to say the same thing as you. I feel bad for the locals, right? Because it's one thing. Oh, my vacation's ruined, right? It's so funny how people's minds work. I can't believe I can't go on this vacation now.
Right.
There's fires over there. Think about the locals, what they're dealing. They're going to have to rebuild. They count on this money for tourism. The whole, you know what I mean? That's going to take decades. They might build up sooner than that, but people's minds change. They say, you know what? Maui's still rebuilding. I'm not going there. Let's just go somewhere. Let's go to the Caribbean. That mindset gets tourism away from that place, right? And people don't go there to support this. After a week, we won't cover this story anymore, and then it's left to the locals to take care of the devastation.
You're absolutely right.
You know what that made me think of? Remember in like the 80s, back when like certain things seemed really fancy? It used to be always Acapulco and Club Med. Like anytime you'd be like Magnum PI, they'd be like, oh, we're going to Club Med. That was like fancy. And now you don't hear people going to those places as much, because you're right, like the vacation mindset about what's the hot spot. Oh, right now it's the Greek islands, those kinds of things. It changes, and you don't want people to forget about Maui, because it's such an integral part of so many people's memories.
It's in the most spiritual place I've ever been. DBL Nation, I really want to get this in. If you want to help, we want you to scan this QR code. It will bring you directly to a site where you can donate to support residents, like they said, and their pets. It has a bunch of options to choose from. You think about all those little things, like, the dogs, the cats, where do they go? Where do they get food? Where do they get water? So we have that QR code. Go ahead and either take a picture of it or scan it and send it to whoever you can. And we are out here to help other Americans, especially the locals right now in Maui. Coming up on DBL, botch star Terry Dubrow is opening up about how his wife, Heather, saved him during a huge health scare. That's coming up next.
Yeah, I got you.
I don't think you do get me.
You said take a picture or scan it. How do you scan it?
You take your camera, but you don't take a picture. It goes to a website. So I'm saying take a picture.
You don't put your photo on when you scan
You
it?
do, but it doesn't take a photo. It goes to a website.
What are y'all two I think you're saying the same thing.
No, I'm not. When you go to a QR code, it doesn't take a picture of it. You just go to the camera app.
No, you don't go to the camera app. There's a QR scanner on your phone.
Take your phone out for people who don't know like how to scan, and it sounds silly, but people might not know. So you go to your photos like you're taking a picture, right? And then you take your picture out, and then you scan the QR code, and the link will pop up.
Jeff, there's a QR thing where you don't have to do that.
You just touch it.
You just go to your settings and then go to your wallet and just unlock
Your wallet.
Okay,
your
what?
wallet on your phone.
I don't know what he's talking about. All you do is hold your camera,
Hold your camera on
it gives you
photos,
the
and
thing,
click
and then
the
it
link.
goes to the link.
Cards.
It doesn't make sense to share a photo because you're
Right.
going to share a photo onto
can't-
another camera phone, and now
You're gonna
you
have to
can't hit
get
it.
your neighbor to come and
But-
scan the photo.
But you can send your neighbor the link.
You can send your neighbor the scan.
No, you send them the link because if you send somebody
You
the
guys don't have a
scan,
wallet with your cards in it?
it's not the cards, and put that away.
It's not. It's not showing you.
That's not
So-
what we're
Al, I
talking
don't even know how
about.
to get to my wallet.
We're not talking about that. We're
You're
talking
saying
about
you
when
can send
that
the
comes
QR
up.
I'm saying the
You
scan.
can, but
Look,
if you're
you
by
just
yourself,
push this
who's gonna
button-
scan it?
You push this button and your scanner's up. You have to go to your
You send them
camera,
the
you
link.
boomers.
You don't send them a picture of the
If you
picture.
don't go to your camera,
No, send them the link.
But it's just a scanner. It's not your camera.
Wow.
It's just
If there's any like 20,
it's one
hey, do
button.
we sound crazy right now?
I didn't know that existed.
I didn't know that either.
I keep it simple. I use my camera like a normal human being.
You don't have to go to your camera. Look, you go down here.
It's the same button.
But you're going.
Welcome back to DBL. Plastic surgeon and botch star Terry Dubrow says he is lucky to be alive thanks to his wife, Heather. Terry appeared remotely during an appearance on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. And Terry said he started having symptoms of a stroke while out to dinner with his wife and son. Heather then insisted he go to the hospital and got their son to actually call 911. It turns out a blood clot had formed and passed through a hole in his heart on the way to his brain. He said if he had gotten on a plane, which he thought he was going to do to come to the show, he might have died. This is so vitally important to everyone, and I just want to share a quick story. When my mom first had her first stroke, my sister started catching it because her mouth started just a little bit, right? And she called an ambulance, and everyone's like, chill out, chill out. We had a nurse at the house. She's like, chill out, we don't need it. The ambulance came, they checked her out, they left because she didn't show any symptoms. Hours later at dinner, she starts talking, and then she boom, 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 boom. And they go into the hospital, and it was a massive stroke, and they had to figure out where the blood clot was coming. So don't ignore even the smallest of symptoms or your gut. My sister said, I knew it. I saw it. I knew the fast, the symbol. You check your face, you check the arms, you check your smile, and then you have time to go. Get in that ambulance and go. So just a quick reminder.
Say that again for people. That's important.
It is. The acronym is FAST, and you check their face to see if they're going sideways. You check your arms, say raise your arms, and usually only one arm will raise. Smile, because one part of it won't. And T stands for time. You have about 3 to 5 hours, called a clock stopper, on a TIA, which he had, to get medicine to reverse the stroke. If you're past that, it's over. You cannot reverse what happened. Please take it seriously. If the worst they can say is you're okay. But any behavior, my father-in-law started using the salt and pepper upside down. And he kept saying, this isn't working, this isn't working. And she said, you're using it wrong. And he kept saying, this isn't working. Think like that. Think like that for those who are.
There is something, what you're saying is accurate and factual, but there's something that holds people back.
They
and
do.
I don't know if it's just men.
They do. And money.
I was thinking about it, and tell me if I'm wrong, especially, guys like Terry's age. There's something about old school guys that are like, I'm the breadwinner. I need to appear strong at all times. And maybe even just the appearance of like, you need to go get that thing on your neck checked out, makes them feel like they appear weaker. I'm not saying, obviously it's wrong, but in their old school and even kind of newer school, mostly men's minds, there's something where it's like, Dad's fine. Let me just get a nap. And I don't know, how do we combat that?
Especially
or do you think I'm way off base?
Yeah, I mean, you can use that as an example, but this affects everyone and for very different reasons. I mean, people will deny medical treatment because they can't afford it.
Right.
People will deny things because say, I don't need to go to the hospital because they don't have anyone to pick up their kid.
Right,
if I'm not here, who is going to do all the things that I'm required to do for the day? So there's a lot of reasons why people are reluctant to seek medical treatment.
Absolutely. That's very true. What do you think about all this?
I think I'm with Al, the reluctancy of like, in just to avoid a fight, maybe.
Right.
Like if I was going with my wife to Andy Cohen and I was like, I think something's wrong, I'm not going. She'd be like, so I'm just going by myself now? No, I can't go. I'd be like, all right, I'm getting on the plane and then I'm dead. You know what I mean? But seriously, it's like there's pressure of outside things. Like I'm not ruining this trip, or I can't do this. As a man, I totally think like that.
Right.
Like I'll be fine. Don't worry. Let's just go. Get in the car. Meanwhile, I'm having a heart attack.
Right.
There's a hole in the heart you didn't even know about.
And especially when there are things that are a birthday party or something like that. That's the time that might bring up enough stress for you to have a heart attack. But you're like, I'm not gonna. It's my wife's 50th. I'm not gonna do. And I think that's when people drop dead.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Please, please, please listen to those instincts. We also want to get to this. Tributes are pouring in for Robbie Robertson, the singer, songwriter, and former lead guitarist for the band. He passed away on Wednesday after a long illness. He was 80 years old. He was born in Canada on a reserve outside of Toronto, and Robbie rose to fame with the band in the 60s. They were known for hits like Up on Cripple Creek about Colorado and The Weight. If you don't know, Take a Load Off Fanny, you know that song? They were featured in The Last Waltz, a great documentary about their farewell concert directed by Martin Scorsese. He included appearances by Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Neil Diamond, Pollen, Van Morrison, and Neil Young. Robbie also scored a number of Martin's films like Raging Bull, The Color of Money. He even worked on The Irishman and the soon-to-be-released Killers of the Flower Moon. This was a tremendous talent that has passed away.
Nice career, bro.
Yeah,
That's true. What a talent.
That's true.
To be full disclosure, I always thought it was Take a Load Off Manny.
Oh, for real?
I really did.
Yeah,
It's like one of those things, and I know all of his music, great musician. I mean, working with Scorsese, some of the best movies ever, but I always thought it was Take a Load Off Manny.
Take a load off Fanny. It's a great song, isn't it, though? Loud in the summer with your windows down.
Yeah. What were you driving in that imaginary scenario?
Big old semi. I don't know why.
A Volkswagen Bug in the 70s? I mean, maybe you put yourself back to this.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There's none of that in there.
No, it was. Martin Scorsese, I do want to end with this, says, it goes without saying that he was a giant, that his effect on the art form was profound and lasting. There is never enough time with anyone you love. And I loved Robbie. Coming up on DBL, can Kanye West make a comeback? We're talking about what he has in the works. Coming up next.
This post has been circulating on social media. It's a warning to dog owners that some types of peanut butter include xylitol, a sweetener that can be deadly for dogs. So does some peanut butter contain xylitol, an ingredient that can harm your pets? Let's verify. Our source is NC State University, a publication from the North American veterinarian community, and Audrey Weistrek, CEO of Pet Folk Veterinarian and Urgent Care. According to NC State University, xylitol is a naturally occurring sugar alcohol in birch trees. It's extracted into a white powder and tastes similar to sugar, so it's commonly used as a low-calorie substitute. While it's not harmful for humans, dogs are a different story.
Dogs do not have the ability to process that chemical compound. And so what ends up happening is they have a severe drop in blood sugar and can cause long-term damage to their liver.
As it's added into more foods, the number of xylitol poisoning cases has increased in canines. A study published by NAVC shows from 2002 to 2015, there was a significant rise in emergency calls.
It is exponentially increased over the last couple of years. And like we said earlier, I think the crazy thing is people don't even realize that some products are sugar-free.
Weistrek says xylitol is found in gum, candy, and even some peanut butter. The common peanut butter brands that include xylitol as an ingredient: Go Nuts, Nuts and More Peanut Butter, and P28 Foods formulated high-protein peanut butter spread.
Checking the labels, and I think that the buzzword that people are going to probably see more often than not is the sugar-free. Sugar-free usually means that there's a sugar substitute.
Weistrek says, in general, regular peanut butter is safe for dogs, but check the ingredients before giving it to your pets. So we can verify that, yes, some peanut butter has xylitol in it, and that's harmful to dogs.
Welcome back. Could some controversial stars be making a comeback? So there are reports that Kanye is feeling inspired thanks to his wife, I say that in quotes, Bianca. The two got married earlier this year, but the ceremony was not legally binding. So Kanye is apparently trying to revive his music and fashion careers, which took a big hit after he posted anti-Semitic statements online. I head to the comeback queen. I asked the comeback queen, can Kanye West make a comeback?
We'll see.
And that's the end of the show, everybody.
Right,
Thank you so much. We'll be back. And we'll see it. What do you?
I mean, we'll see. You really?
Can anyone make a comeback?
I always believe everyone's deserving of the comeback they're willing to earn.
Right.
But that also comes with a certain level of consistency, and it comes with a certain level of belief, and you're going to walk it like you talk it. And for Kanye, it's been very interesting because he is always going to have a dedicated group of followers. There are going to be people who are completely unfazed by anything that he says or does and will support him regardless. The question is, Kanye has always been a mainstream figure, mainstream artist. When you're mainstream, you're held to a different level when it comes to the acceptance of, the status quo and what will be accepted and what won't be.
Right.
So that's all to say, you can talk a comeback, but until you actually walk a comeback, we'll see.
That's fair.
I mean, I was listening to what you were saying, and you were saying Kanye's mainstream, and I was like, he always has been, but is he really now? He's doing Alex Jones, he's going on kind of rogue third-party podcasts and websites. And once you do that, it's hard to come back over and start doing shows where they're advertising Tide and Pizza Hut and things like that. So I wonder, because to have that comeback, you have to be able to do that Robin Roberts interview. You have to be able to do the mea culpa where it's nicely lit.
I would apologize or start with going to a synagogue. You know what I mean?
But I mean, even to get there, you have to have the right people to cover that for you.
Right.
Because there are people in this business that smooth your way back in as an A-list celebrity after you've stepped out. And I don't know if there's a network that would even allow that meeting to take place because of what he said. I don't know if it's worth it anymore, because you have to assume that there's going to be a problem at some point with him. So I don't know who would take that financially, regardless of how we feel about it.
The chance of it. What do you think, real quick?
Real quick, I mean, I don't think I have a real quick answer. I think society set up what we have today. I don't think he needs those networks. I don't think he needs Tide to sponsor him. He has enough followers where if he came out with new music, people would listen. If you want him to go mainstream, you come back with the, hey, I have a mental issue, right? You throw that on there. Oh, you cheated on your wife. I have a sex addiction. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pry. Yeah, leave me alone. I have a mental issue. We just blame everything on some secondary thing. Why can't we do that with Kanye? Why can't we say he has a mental issue? Obviously, he clearly does, right? I'm not a doctor, but why can't he lay his excuses on that, since we're so forgiving for that in society these days? Why
I don't know that he's asked for forgiveness.
But what if he does?
That's a bridge we can cross, and I think that's a very good question.
Because then you can't call him out for using anti-Semitic comments because now he has a mental issue.
But I don't think you can say if you have a mental issue that automatically makes you or can make you anti-Semitic. That's the problem with that.
Exactly, but I'm saying that now you have an excuse on one. I'm not sticking up for Kanye by any means. I'm saying society set up this argument for everything that we have.
For him to come back that way.
You know what I mean? Instead of just saying, I don't like this guy, get him out of here, you know? Now we're like, wait a second, you can't say that. What if my grandma has mental health issues? You saying my grandma needs to lose her job? It's like, no, that's not what I was saying.
Right. There's
so now it's like, you could bring the conversation anywhere you want in today's society.
Let's see
That's what I'm trying to say.
I guess you're right. We'll see. Absolutely. Well, get this. Amy Robach may also be on the comeback trail. Amy and her co-host TJ Holmes, you remember them. They were let go from GMA 3, after it was revealed they have been romantically involved. Now, Amy may be getting her own show. It's a primetime show at News Nation. But reports say the deal likely does not include TJ.
Shocking.
Please. Why?
I'm shocked.
Are you really, or is this sarcasm? Because I sense sarcasm. Are you not?
I said this day one.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't you already know this?
I said that TJ, they both made a huge mistake, but he made a much bigger one.
Yeah, why do you say that?
Because Amy Robach was always going to be okay. She would have been okay. Here's the thing. Amy Robach had been a part of GMA, and GMA, like she had, there was an investment that was made in Amy that was not made in TJ. TJ took a shot that he was given, and he made other decisions with that shot.
I see.
And I think that from the beginning, my prediction was that he was going to have a tougher hill to climb to get back. And I think we're seeing that, and I am not shocked.
Wow.
I'm just surprised somebody hasn't taken a shot with them together.
I agree with you.
That's the story.
I said the
Take that show from the beginning. You did say this from the beginning. I'll give you credit for that. I said it from the beginning. Take your show to YouTube. Nobody needs networks anymore. Nobody needs record companies anymore. That's why they better watch out with this SAG thing, because if actors start producing their own films on the side and making their own content on their own platforms and their own websites, nobody needs the networks anymore. Nobody needs those shows. If they did a show on YouTube and did a podcast, I'm sure it would be pretty good.
Oh, how many people would tune in? That's like popcorn watching. You know what I'm saying? Or eating. And we'll be right back with the right. Whatever.
Young women across the globe are wondering if bee pollen will boost their cup size because of TikTok influencers who say the supplement works in just a couple of weeks. So let's verify, can bee pollen increase a woman's chest size? Our sources are Dr. Tim Martindale, owner of a family practice physician in Waco, and Dr. Dustin Fowler, an allergist at Allergy and Asthma Care. Martindale says it's possible bee pollen could increase your cup size since hormones can be made from plants.
If you get a plant-based estrogen and as a result it increases your your estrogen levels, maybe progesterone, in your body, then whatever the estrogen stimulates might grow. So theoretically, if your breasts have sensitivity to estrogen, they might grow slightly with the use of the phytoestrogen or plant-based estrogen.
But until health experts actually get data that is carefully controlled, they cannot confirm it is true.
Given the fact that it's simply a vitamin, that the chance that it would offer some standard improvement or whatever desire is sought after from women taking this supplement, I don't think it could be replicated. So I don't think a lot of physicians would advocate their patients to take that for that desired effect.
Bee pollen still has other confirmed health benefits, according to Martindale.
Bee pollen's been something that we've used for years, all kinds of ways we use it for. There's thought about it helping with your allergies, thought about it helping with your immune system, feeling that it even can help with your some sex hormones for men or women. It might have an effect on fertility.
And on the flip side, there are also some health risks. Bee pollen carries where bees have been, so if you're exposing yourself to the supplement, you will get whatever the bee has been exposed to. This could cause an allergic reaction, but Dr. Fowler says the risk is exceptionally low. So we can verify that no, there is no scientific evidence that bee pollen increases the size, but there are other benefits.
Currently, we do not have solid medical research that indicates and proves that bee pollen increases the size of a woman's breast. We can see theoretically how that might happen, and we don't think there's major dangers to using it, but we can't say it's going to work.
Our experts told us to always talk to your primary physician before anything.
Having the most informed decision is prudent, and sometimes things catch on fire in social media that might not always be accurate. And so having that personal trust in the physician is really crucial, especially in today's medical environment.
With your Verify, I'm Sydney Deshawn.
Welcome back to DBL. A woman is going viral on TikTok after she posted a video showing all the rules that were posted all over her Airbnb rental home. So the $2,000 a night rental in Texas had notes all over the rooms, like this one on an antique cabinet warning them not to pull on the knobs. There was a sign saying no jumping on the bed, and if they broke it, the cost would be passed on to the renters. There were shelves in the kitchen that were strictly off limits. This sign telling them to use a placemat on grandma's table. Get this, a do not touch sign on their potted cactus.
Oh my goodness. I would at least change it to a friendly font.
Society's hard enough. I don't need labels pointing everything out.
Right?
What not to do anyway.
I feel like $2,000 a night and you can't put a placemat? Put a placemat over your mouth, huh?
Yeah.
I would definitely just smash something.
Yeah, you would.
Oh my God.
Put a label on.
Well, thanks for sticking with us today. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow.